Jamel Gibbs here. Listen, today I picked up two properties right next door to each other. And what I want to do is walk you guys through this property. And I want to talk about the importance of knowing how to renegotiate your contract. Now, I want you to keep in mind these properties have liens on them. All right, so there's not much more that I can take off of the price that we do have, but there is some breathing room. All right. And I also want you to keep in mind that these properties were tied up over the phone, literally. So the seller contacted us. We screened them over the phone. We got repair estimates over the phone. We made offers over the phone. And we also signed these properties through DocuSign, which is through the internet, obviously, right? So this is my first time ever seeing these properties. And after driving out here, which is about 25 minutes from where I live, I'm noticing that these properties need a lot more work than I was anticipating over the phone with my virtual assistant. So in my opinion, these properties need to be knocked down and rebuilt. The problem is the neighborhood doesn't really call for that. All right, the neighborhood won't allow me to put two new houses up and then be able to get my money back out of them. So my only other option is to sell these properties to a landlord that's looking to rehab these properties, hold on to them long term, and then ultimately rent these properties for a profit each and every single month. The other option is to find somebody who's willing to live in these properties, put some money into them, and ultimately allow me to make a profit on the front end. All right, so that's what we're dealing with right here. We're dealing with a couple of properties that need a tremendous amount of work. We're gonna walk inside. I haven't been through the property yet. I did open up the door. Now, as you can see, first and foremost, there's no access to the property, right? This is crazy. At the end of the day, if I have to renegotiate these contracts, that's what I'm gonna have to do. And that's what I wanna focus on in this video. So come on inside. All right, everybody, so we inside the house, and like I said, these properties need a tremendous amount of work. The first thing I'm noticing right off the bat is there's a bunch of ants outside, and they're crawling all over me, so I got ants all over myself, right? Part of the real estate business, no question about it. What I'm immediately noticing is how much work the property needs. Number one, the foundation feels nice and soft, so that tells me that there's either a creek in the back, which there is, I happen to know that, and that's causing some water damage underneath the house, causing foundation issues. So, you know, I'm 245, 240 pounds or so. If I jump up and down, and I'm a lot of muscle, if I jump up and down in this house, I'm going through the floor, right? So that tells me that there's gonna be a foundation issue underneath this house. The next thing I'm noticing is the ceiling. On the ceiling, there's holes all over the place, right? Which tells me that there's gonna be some water damage. There's some black mold up there, which, you know, we don't necessarily want to breathe in. And also the layout of this property is horrible, right? So you got to walk through a bedroom to get to the kitchen. You got a bedroom over there. You got a bedroom right here. We're standing in the living room right now. You got to walk through that bedroom to get to the bathroom and the kitchen. So the layout is absolutely horrible in this place. So I personally, you know, for me, this is a wholesale deal. So I'm not looking to rehab. I'm not putting a dime of my own money into this property. Will this house fit for someone? Absolutely it will. One man's trash is another man's treasure. For me, this is definitely trash. And I'm not trying to put down the property at all, but I'm just saying that this property is not something that I would take the time out to rehab. Plus, the profit spreads in a neighborhood isn't large enough for me to want to do a rehab myself. But this house, between this one and the house next door, we bought them as a package deal from the seller for $20,000. So we paid $10,000 each house. This neighborhood calls for $40,000 to $50,000 on the profit or on the ARV for the property. So that means these houses as a package deal are worth somewhere in the neighborhood of $80,000 to $100,000 collectively. Right now, we're marketing these properties for $30,000, which basically gives me a $10,000 profit spread. Now, here's what I mean about the importance of renegotiating your contracts. Number one, if you find that you can't sell the property within a 2-week time frame, in this case, understanding the market condition that we're in right now, if you can't sell it in 30 days, chances are it's on the contract for too much money. Number two, you got to make sure that there's some breathing room in the equity, right? So if the seller is giving these houses away, then there's no breathing room, right? if the seller has a lien on the property for $10,000 and I'm basically paying off the liens, there's no breathing room. So there's nothing to renegotiate. But in this case, the seller owes about $6,000, $7,000 or so in liens on both of these properties. We paid $10,000 each house. So if the seller owes $14,000 to $15,000 collectively, and they're gonna make a $5,000 profit, and we feel like we paid too much for these houses, then we can always go back to the seller and get the price even lower. Use that at your discretion. You know, whatever helps you to wake up and look yourself in the mirror each morning, you do. But for me, I personally want to treat people the way I want to be treated. And if I was in their predicament, I want to make sure that I'm taken care of. So on the flip side, I'm going to take care of the seller if I'm able to. So how can we tell if these properties are worth it? Number one, we put the properties out and see what type of hits we get. If we're not getting any offers within the first couple of weeks, we need to drop the price, okay? And we drop them slowly. We drop them by maybe 10 or 20% each week until the properties are sold, or until we can't drop it anymore because there's no profit in them. Another thing you want to keep in mind is if I have a buyer come out today and a buyer tells me, look, I can't pay you $30,000, I can only pay you $22,000, or I can pay you $25,000. One thing that I can do is create a larger profit spread for myself. So if a buyer comes out and say, I can take both of these properties today and I'm willing to pay you $24,000 as a package deal, meaning I'm willing to pay $12,000 for that house and $12,000 for this house, then I can always go back to the seller knowing that there's a little bit of breathing room and tell a seller, hey, look, you know, after reviewing the property with my business partners, we, you know, honestly, you know, the house just needed a lot more work than we anticipated over the phone. You know, are you willing to take $8,000 each house? Or are you willing to take, $9,000 each house? You know, just shaving off a little bit off of the price, but still allowing the seller to have a little bit of profit in the deal as well. Again, making sure that you're treating the seller the way you would want to be treated and negotiating a better price at the same time. So what would that deal look like? So rather than me paying $20,000 for the houses as a package deal, I would pay $18,000, right? Knowing that I have a buyer for $24,000. And then I can always go back to the buyer as well, and I can negotiate with them. I can get them up another $1,000 or so and say, hey, rather than, I understand that you're at $24,000. If you do 25, we can make this happen. Chances are buyers won't mind paying an extra $500 each house, or an extra $1,000 for the deal. So in this case, it'll be me at $20,000. I would have to negotiate with the seller to get them down $2,000 and then get the buyer up another $1,000. So that would leave me with, what is that, a $7,000 profit spread instead of a $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 profit spread. I'm basically creating a profit spread on both sides of the fence. I'm taking a little bit from the seller and I'm taking a little bit from the buyer in order to widen out how much money I'm actually going to make on the deals. So the point is, don't be afraid to renegotiate your contracts with your motivated sellers. Don't be afraid to ask for a little bit more money from your buyers as well. Create the profit spread in between in order for you to be able to make money on these houses. And one thing I will say, this house needs a lot more work than what we anticipated. It definitely needs more than what we thought over the phone. So I can use that as a way to negotiate better pricing on this deal. Also, we extended our contract out so far on this property because of the current market conditions that chances are the seller is going to be willing to work with us either way. Apparently, you can't see the house next door because there's a tenant in there. I don't want to bother the tenant, but let me know. The house next door is in the same condition as this. Let me know if you feel like we paid too much for these houses. Let me know what you would have paid on the contract for these properties. Again, knowing that these houses are worth $80,000 to $100,000 combined, we paid $20,000. Okay, what would you have paid for these properties? And also keep in mind, we're doing everything virtually, right? This is my first time seeing these properties. They were locked up over the phone. Contracts were signed directly on the internet. you know, I never even met the seller, okay? And at the end of the day, these properties are virtual deals. We got the key from the seller from one of my business partners who went by the seller's place to get the key. I met up with my business partner just a little while ago, picked up the key, and you know, at the end of the day, this property needs a lot of work. If you have any questions in regards to real estate or life in general, just let me know. I'm thinking about doing a Q&A video, testing one of those out, answering all of your questions that you guys might have in regards to real estate investing, maybe even bodybuilding or eating right, or you know, just life in general. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, click the notification bell, tell all your friends about this video, tell all your friends about my channel, share all my videos with all your friends who might benefit from it, and I'll talk to you guys on the next one. Peace.
Perfect.